Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of All the Mods 6. How are you guys doing today? How's life? Go away. I want to start today's episode by tinkering a little bit, but just a bit. I'm assuming that you guys already know that Tinker's Construct has been updated to 1.16. As far as I can understand it, the basic Smeltery has not gone through that many changes, except that you might notice we have a seared chute, which is used for item input and output. And that is very confusing for me because previously we used to put a hopper on top of the controller, and maybe they just added this block so that we don't have to do that anymore. And talking about the controller, the recipe has been changed and now you need to have a melter and a heater, because now it's a casting recipe with copper. This thing also confuses me a lot because the heater accepts coal. The melter also accepts coal, but you need to have the heater, otherwise the melter is not working. Anyways, there is absolutely nothing that we need from Tinker's Construct, and I'm not going to try and make tools, but there is one thing that I want. This is a block of steel and it is from Immersive Engineering, and it is one of my favorite blocks in the game, because it looks amazing. The problem is that in this mod pack, if you want to craft a block of steel, you get the one from Mechanism, and there is no way of converting them. And ever since Tinker's was added to the pack, now there is a recipe for it. I would have done everything off camera because the Smeltery itself is nothing too fancy or anything complicated, but I ran into a problem. In order to make molten steel, you need 1210 degrees, and lava only gives you 1000. If we look at the JEI, we have two options. One of them is Soul Lava, which is from all the mods, but unfortunately, there's absolutely no way of getting it. And I checked, if you look at the laser drill, there's no recipe for it. And the other option we have is called Molten Blaze, and that is from Tinker's. Apparently we have to put a blaze inside the Smeltery, and that will give us Molten Blaze. All the things that I just mentioned means that we have to go to the Nether. I have already been to the Nether because I wanted to go to the other dimension, so we're not going to get any achievements. That is my telepath. And how am I supposed to find a fortress? I did not do any exploration in the Nether previously, so it's void of any structures. We have to come to the other dimension. It's not a very friendly dimension, and yes, I do have a mob imprisonment tool. Cool. I just wanted to tell you that previously I have done a stupid amount of exploration in order to find a dragon, and I was not very successful. But we do have our blaze, so we can go home. Actually, I should have come here more often. While we are here, let us take some basalt, just in case, and some blackstone. There is a ghost. You have 700 health. It is perfectly fine. We are done. We go back home. Ladies and gentlemen, in order to find Blaze, we went to hell. We were not successful, so we went to a more hellish place. And eventually I remembered I could have just done this. It's okay. We all make mistakes. So you put a blaze inside the Smeltery with lava. Per 1 heart of damage, you get 20 millibuckets. That's actually really convenient for us because I think we have regeneration over here, meaning that our blaze is going to suffer indefinitely. Go back in. Go back in. Okay, he's back in. So blazes are not affected by regeneration. Interesting. But we do get Molten Blaze. That's what I wanted. If the blaze dies, how are we going to automate the production of Molten Blaze? We are going to use a mob duplicator. Do you know why? Because in the recent update of Industrial Foregoing, they made a gap. So this is going to be the bottom of our Smeltery, and we're going to have the mob duplicator just underneath. Or at least I am assuming that is going to work. If this idea works, we're going to have two Smelteries. One of them is going to be for the production of Molten Blaze, and the other one for routine stuff. I did put the mob duplicator under the Smeltery. We're going to give you the blaze. Obviously you're going to require RF and a little bit of essence. And I did enable redstone for this, so let us check. Do we get blazes? Yes. He's not dying, because I'm assuming you also need lava? Yes. Okay, I think we have to mute them. So this kind of works, but I don't like how it looks. Oh, and for some reason we get Inferium Essence. And thankfully, yes, they have given us the chute, so we can extract it. So let me make a better design and I'll be right back. Okay, so I came up with a bigger design and it's actually very useful because we can spawn more blazes. I added a range add-on of +1 and it will spawn blazes in a 3x3 area, like so, which is actually very fast. That is 12 buckets. But here are some of the questions that I have. Can we extract the Inferium using the chute? Can I? Yes, okay, that's good. Also, we have another issue with the drain that you see over here because we cannot set filters for it and it might extract the lava. But here's the point. In the recent update of Tinker's Construct, they have thought about this and there is something called a Seared Duct, which you can actually set filters for. The problem is, it needs Cobalt. And me does not have Cobalt. Yet. So for the moment I just want to see, can we cheat and use a pipe with a filter? Yes, I can. Interesting. And yes, we get it in an ender tank. Perfect. So let us make it slightly more fun. We are going to have a Redstone Transmitter from RF Tools over there. And then I made a valve from gauges and switches, which looks nice. Then I'm going to configure this receiver to channel 6. which we're going to use it in order to control the mob duplicator. So now if I turn the switch, we should get blazes. Perfect. The lava is gone. That is not perfect. I am going to fix the lava situation, don't you worry, but one step at a time. I have a feeling that you're extracting it. It's okay, we get rid of them. And after we get Cobalt, our issue should be solved. We want to transfer this Molten Blaze to the Smeltery that we have over here, right? So here's what we're going to do. We're going to have a tank from Mechanism, and we're going to have an Ender tank on top. And just to make it slightly fancy, can we use the fluid pipe from Immersive Engineering? Because it looks nice. Although we should remember that we have to disconnect you. And everything is going to go inside this tank. And just to make it slightly fancy, we should be able to read a comparator signal out of the fluid tank from Mechanism, which is going to send that signal into a Redstone Transmitter, and we're going to receive it over here, so that we will always know how much fluid is inside. And now that I'm thinking about it, maybe we can bring this one a bit higher? Yes, this is much better. Now let us get Cobalt. So, Cobalt. How do we get it? We need a laser drill in the Nether. I did make a very small care package, we're carrying some blocks, so this should be easy peasy. I have everything, right? I keep saying to you guys that a portal has to be 3 by 3. This one has no center. You guys have been telling me that the laser drills do not have to be pointing towards the laser base. So I can place them any way that I want? This doesn't feel right. It's okay, if it works faster, I'm not complaining. And I'm not exactly sure, can I have more than 12? If you know, please let me know. Oh, and by the way, I could not afford efficiency upgrades, so we're just going to have speed upgrades. And since Cobalt is going to require a blue lens, I made 6. We want to be really focused on Cobalt, between Y level 34 and 96. That is fine, I guess. By the way, I just noticed something very interesting. You can chunk load an area with your flux point. Ew. Okay. Then I'm taking it back. Oh, we got one. Oh, we also get garbage. Then if that is the case, I'm not sure. Maybe we could have put it in the overworld. So this was not something super complicated. What we're doing is that we're keeping the Cobalt and we're voiding everything else. I also slabbed the entire place except that one because I'm out of slabs. But we also have a roof so that nothing spawns over here. Anyhow, we are done. We can go back home. And thankfully we have ore tripling, so this should work. This is not a very good idea for ore tripling. We turn it off. We did all of that in order to get the Seared Duct. And let us hope it works the same way as it should. We need 1 bucket. And I can just set a filter? Interesting. So if I'm not wrong, we should be able to add lava and start spawning blazes. That one is compressed. It's perfect. Our system is working. And you can see the tank is almost full. Well, now that we have the correct material, let us see if we can get blocks of steel. I can melt it. That is good. And this is the moment of truth. The texture has changed. And it looks nice. Yes! Immersive engineering. This was totally worth it, and we're going to make it look nice. Don't you worry. I went up ahead and cleaned it up for the moment. One thing that I forgot to mention is that this tank serves no purpose. It's just for decoration. But most of the wires and cables are hidden. I'm going to hide this one as well, don't you worry. And then for my personal curiosity, I decided to see if I can make a pick from Tinkers. It has gone through a little bit of change because you do not have a stencil table anymore, you just have a part builder. And that one actually holds all the patterns and you don't have to craft the patterns, you just do this. And instead of having a tool station, you have a tinker station where you can make your pickaxe, hatchet and axe. You can't make shovels? I just noticed you cannot make shovels. Anyways, for the hammer and the excavator, now you have an anvil. But one thing that I noticed is that one of the attributes of Cobalt is missing. Cobalt used to be lightweight, which means that you can mine faster, but it also had an attribute called momentum, meaning the more blocks you break, the faster you will mine. And for some reason that attribute has been given to a new metal called Hepatizen. And the block actually looks nice. Anyways, we don't need any tools from Tinkers, so this was just curiosity. But on a positive note, our system works really well. Look, blocks of steel. It takes a little bit of time. I got what I wanted from Tinkers, now it's time to focus on more important stuff. For instance, I noticed we have 327 Ionite crystals. Therefore, it is time for an upgrade. Oh, you need nether stars. How many do you need? 68. I have 91. So ladies and gentlemen, if I'm not wrong, we have everything we need in order to make a tier 5 ore miner. Build. I hate the errors. What are you missing? Frame? Yes, it's missing 4 because they are here. Okay, now it works. I did not upgrade the power input. I'm hoping it's enough. Yes, it's plenty. Oh, and by the way, I forgot to mention that these are frequency modifiers, but they are chironite, so they're like 2 levels below ionite. One day that we are rich, I'm going to upgrade them. Last night when I was sleeping, the pack got updated and there has been a few changes, so some of the things that I have actually mentioned in this episode are not wrong. I have not updated the pack myself, but apparently there is a recipe for making soul lava, so you should be able to make tools out of all the modium ingots. It seems that they have also added some recipes for the bees, and there has been an issue with dragons in the other dimension which seems to have been fixed. But unfortunately that is too late for us. Today we have other things to attend to. I think our first order of business is to try and make an induction matrix because one of these guys is only working, the rest are offline. So we are wasting time. I have already made the patterns for the induction cells, and the only thing that we have to do is to just craft them. And just out of curiosity, can we have some quantum entangloporters? So an ultimate induction provider can handle 52 million RF. So I think one is enough. That is a fair amount of resources, just for one block. And how many induction cells can we make? Can we make 2? No. For me personally, redstone is turning into an issue. It's okay, we're going to start with 1. I want to put the induction matrix here, so we need to remove this pipe. And instead we're going to use a quantum entangloporter. I think they are connected? Yes, they are. Perfect. Like any other structure from Mechanism, this can also be 18 by 18 by 18, but we are not going to go for the maximum size because I'm never going to fill it in. I think this size should be okay for us. So we need to configure one of the induction ports to output, and then can we add a new channel over here? I want to have a channel for power reserve, and then inside the induction matrix itself we need to have one ultimate induction provider, which determines how much input and output the induction matrix can have, and we're going to have an ultimate induction cell. That is 1.6 trillion RF, and I'm assuming we just cover it? Yes. Oh, I forgot, we have to input power from the power reserve, so now it's filling up, and then we have to output to the normal channel. Do these guys have a limit? 800,000. Can you like change it? Oh yes, disable limit. So at this very moment we are generating 430,000 RF and we're consuming somewhere around 30 to 40,000. It's not that bad. Our power situation is not that bad. I think we already have like 10 billion RF in reserve, so maybe we should start processing fissile fuel. It's a fairly complicated process, but let me make a few patterns for the machines. And it's very annoying to work when phase are everywhere. In order to get fissile fuel, we need something called uranium hexafluoride, which you get it from an isotopic centrifuge, correct? The uranium hexafluoride is a combination of uranium oxide and hydrofluoric acid. Uranium oxide itself is fairly easy to make because it's basically just yellow cake in a chemical oxidizer. And how do you get yellow cake? It's uranium in an enrichment chamber. So I think we're going to start with the difficult one, which is going to be the hydrofluoric acid. That is also not the worst thing in the world because we just need sulfuric acid and fluoride. That's it. So we're going to start by getting sulfuric acid. There is a very small point that we have to consider. Using a lot of export buses and import buses is not very good for your game because it's incredibly laggy. Unless it has been fixed in the latest version of Applied Energistics, which I'm not actually sure. So I think my solution for this is that we're going to have an interface. And we're going to configure the interface to always have uranium and sulfur present so that we can distribute it amongst the machines. And of course we're going to handle that distribution by XNet. Can't you use the controller to remove all the limits? Because this is frustrating, I have to do it for every single flux point. In order to make sulfuric acid, we're going to need sulfur, and unfortunately this sulfur that we have is not the one we want. We want the dust, which is unfortunately a recipe that can only be handled in a pulverizer. I have set up a pattern for our pulverizer, and what we're going to do is that we're going to export it over here and give you a crafting card. So it's crafting it for us. But just to speed things up, I'm going to order like, I don't know, 7,000 of it. Just to clarify, this could be a very temporary setup because I first have to set up the machines to see how everything works, and then we have to make it look nice. But in any case, now that we have sulfur, we should be able to start making sulfuric acid. You know, at first I thought this is going to be a super complicated setup because we need to get sulfuric acid, but no, it's incredibly easy. Because here's the point, in order to get sulfuric acid, you're going to need sulfur trioxide, you're going to need water vapor, and you're going to need oxygen as well as sulfur dioxide. That is a total of 5 machines. But one thing that I have realized is that you can just have a chemical dissolution chamber and add sulfur. That is sulfuric acid. So basically the only thing that I have to do is to export sulfur and fluoride from our interface and insert it into the chemical dissolution chamber. We're getting sulfuric acid, we're getting hydrofluoric acid. Although you cannot have the extra and input on the same side, which is perfectly fine by me because we can have an extra channel for fluoride. And that's it, hydrofluoric acid. Then I'm guessing the complicated part is to try and get the uranium oxide because that needs 2 machines. And the only thing that we have to do is to try and make yellow cake inside the enrichment chamber, it goes into a chemical oxidizer, and we get uranium oxide. Also, I do understand that XNet can handle mechanism gases, but it's slightly finicky. So I'm using quantum entangloporters in order to transfer the gas. Anyways, the final step, now that we have the hydrofluoric acid and we have the uranium oxide, is to just start mixing them in a chemical infuser to get uranium hexafluoride, which as a final step has to go inside an isotopic centrifuge and we get fissile fuel. Basically, that's it. We're done. I have fully upgraded the machines, and do you remember that a few minutes ago I ordered 7000 sulfur? It's gone. And I had to order 7000 more, and after this, we don't have any more sulfur. But on a positive note, we have fissile fuel, and this guy is consuming 100,000 RF per tick. Now the question is, how do we get sulfur? Gunpowder is not a good solution. I think our only solution is actually just a PRC. We need to give it a block of charcoal with oxygen, that will give us 9 sulfur. We can also give it coal, but I don't have that much coal. We don't have to worry about sulfur that much because there is a very simple solution for it. And that solution is that you should not do the thing which I just did. If you convert sulfur directly to sulfuric acid, you only get 2 millibuckets per 1 sulfur. But if you actually try to make the sulfuric acid using the chemical oxidizers and infusers, you get 100 millibuckets per sulfur. So that is actually 50 times more efficient. And basically what I'm trying to say is that do not make the same mistake that I did, and do it the proper way. And the proper way in this case is that you need to input sulfur inside a chemical oxidizer so that you will get sulfur dioxide. The sulfur dioxide has to be mixed in a chemical infuser with oxygen so that you will get sulfur trioxide. And finally you have to mix it again inside another chemical infuser with water vapor so that you get sulfuric acid. And obviously then we just move to a dissolution chamber and make our hydrofluoric acid. So with this setup that we have over here, we don't have to worry about sulfur that much. I did try to hide all the cables and wiring, and I'm relatively happy with the results, but I did notice a few problems. When the isotopic centrifuge was working, nothing else was working. And then I figured out the maximum cap of XNet is 100,000 RF per tick, and that's it. So the entire power that we had was just being consumed by this one guy. It was not a huge problem because I put it on another channel, but here is the problem. I just gave it one more channel for 100,000 more RF, and now if we extract the fissile fuel, the energy is gone. That is 200,000 RF per tick. So basically this guy can work with, I don't know, like 300,000 RF per tick. I mean, it is providing us with fissile fuel at a decent rate, but you know, it could use a little bit more RF. It took me a very long time to understand how the isotopic centrifuge is going to accept RF, because if you put a cable on top, it doesn't connect. But apparently you can hook up a cable to the bottom side. So what we're going to do is that we're going to have a flux point, and you should work at maximum efficiency. That is 256 millibuckets of fissile fuel per tick. And honestly speaking, right now I don't have to worry about that my system is inefficient. And besides, it looks nice. And by the way, did you know we have 140 blocks of insanium? This was incredibly fast. Now that we have access to a decent amount of fissile fuel, maybe next episode we are going to start by making a very small reactor in order to get polonium. Cause here's the point, if we get polonium we would be able to make the mecha suit as well as the QIO network. Besides, one more important thing is that before we can go to a bigger reactor and start making antimatter, we need plutonium. Because in order to make the SPS casing, you need 1 plutonium pellet. So this is why we're going to start with a smaller reactor, because that is actually more manageable. And besides, I have to fix my sulfur situation. But those are the things that we can worry about them next episode, because I think it's also a good time to wrap up this one. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it. Till the next one, bye bye.